Shame. Shame. Shame, shame, shame. Shame on you. Shame, shame, shame. Shame on you. This was serious, but it turned into something fun.
Hey, Ryan. Hi, this is Sarah Palin.
Ryan, Donald Trump Jr.
Hogs to win, see you. Hey, everybody, I want y'all to check out a fellow Marines podcast.
My name is Ted Nugent, and I got a call from my buddy Ryan F. Samuels, and he wants me to tell you that he's a working hard, playing all-American son of a who is celebrating God, family, country.
Welcome to the Ryan Samuels Show, one of the top political podcasts in the United States, where we have a healthy distrust for government and mainstream media. The Ryan Samuels Show is a raw, unfiltered look at American politics. Follow on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Rumble, and all podcast platforms. Here is your host, Ryan Samuels.
Hello, Patriots. So big news we already predicted on this show. We did a show about Colorado attempting to remove Donald Trump from the ballot. We made the prediction then that Trump would definitely stay on the ballot and the Supreme Court would overturn it, and they did. All 9, a unanimous decision by the Supreme Court. Even the far-left lunatic Supreme Court judges said, no, you cannot do this. You cannot remove Donald Trump from the ballot because you do not have the authority to do so. Now, we also talked about the last time we brought this up, we talked about Section 5 and that it was up to Congress to make that determination and that decision. And that is essentially what the Supreme Court came back and said that, listen, it's not up to the states, right? It's not up to the states. It is up to Congress. You cannot do this. And of course, in a left-leaning fashion, we are having major meltdowns from the left. Here's Rachel Maddow practically in tears. Oh, it's such a sad day for America.
But I will just leave you with this. There's no magic spell. There's no solution that is going to come, say, from the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court did the favor of reminding us all of that today when they ruled that Trump will stay on the ballot all over the country. They gave us that reminder today. After last week, they made sure we knew it in the first place when they somewhat inexplicably took action to delay all the Trump criminal trials except the one they couldn't stop until after the election.
Look at her. She's about to cry. That's okay by me. She can cry. I love it when Rachel Maddow cries. She's not mentioning the fact that this is just completely not up to the states. And you know, the Supreme Court's not even talking about whether or not he's an insurrectionist or not. They didn't even get that far. Because that's not the debate. You can't do this. We don't care if he's an insurrectionist or if he's not an insurrectionist. It does not matter. Even if he was an insurrectionist, you cannot do this. You can't do it. You do not have the authority to do this. It is up to Congress. It even says it in the amendment, Section 5, that Congress will regulate it.
There's no magic wand coming to stop this thing. There's no, magic beans that you can grow here that make some beanstalk take us away from all of this. There's only one way out of this. Pick one. The Democratic Party has picked its nominee. Yes, it's an old guy who is doing practical, normal, and popular things as president and who has a lot to show for it.
Practical. It's so sad, man. It's like they actually believe it. It's sad.
Particularly in terms of how well things are going economically since he has been at the helm.
What's that? I mean, Rachel, tell me what Joe Biden is doing economically. I mean, inflation is through the roof. They come around, they say it's not. Nonsense. Everybody who goes shopping knows that inflation's through the roof. You want to go out to eat, forget it. Haircuts are like $30, $40 now. Under Donald Trump, they were $20, $25. Grocery shopping, you're going to spend $200, $300 when you would have spent $100. and nobody's wages are up, just the expenses, thanks to Joe Biden and his disastrous presidency.
The Republican Party is pretty obviously picking their guy as well, also an old guy who, for example, cannot say the word Venezuela and who has no idea who is the current president of the United States. Currently riding high on his party's abortion bans and measles-curious virological denialist free associating, he's trying to warm the American people up to the idea of just a little bit of dictatorship from him. And he's getting us ready to, start building camps to hold millions, because his advisors say the deportations start at noon on day one.
Yes. What's wrong with the deportations? Of the millions and millions of illegal immigrants that Joe Biden has flooded through the country and secretly shipped around the United States, what is wrong with kicking illegal aliens out of the United States of America when they have not been vetted and they have not been cleared? There's nothing wrong with that.
Courts are not going to help. The law will be a sidebar to the main decision. You will make this decision. The only way this decision will be made is by you picking one, by you volunteering and donating and campaigning and deciding it matters enough to you to not only vote, but to help your candidate try to win. The Republican Party really, really is amazing right now. But the only thing that will stop them is Democrats winning instead. Period. Full stop. Thank you, United States Supreme Court, for the clarification. The campaign, if we didn't...
Oh, shut up. Shut up, Rachel. Idiot. I love how she's like, you need to vote Democrat. Anybody who's watching MSNBC and watching Rachel Maddow is either an incredible opponent of Rachel Maddow, like myself, or a staunch supporter. There are no in between. This is an extremist network. MSNBC is an extremist network, and only the most extreme Democrats watch it.
Attorney for President Trump, Alina Habba, joins me now. Alina, are you going to send Keith Olbermann some of those new Trump sneakers?
Yes, I am, and I'm going to put them in a case so he can look at them forever and look at eBay and how they're selling for $450,000.
What's going on with these people? It's just a crazy reaction to something everybody knew was going to happen.
You know what it reminds me of, Jesse? Do you remember in 2016 and 2020, and you had these women, they're memes now of them crying when Donald Trump won, just the outbreak. I remember waking up at 2 a.m. and watching liberals just shed liberal tears. That is what's happening. Why? Because America won today. Imagine crying because the Constitution is standing strong and we're not going to turn into Cuba. That's Trump derangement syndrome 101 right there. We're so upset because the Constitution was upheld today, because the Supreme Court showed us that we are not Cuba, we are not a third world country, we are not a banana republic, and that the things I've seen over the past 4 months in New York are not going to become America. And what does MSNBC, The View, and CNN do? They have tantrums. It's literally epic to watch, but we did say this is a clean-cut Supreme Court decision. It's constitutional. They were trying to do something that would have been hurtful to Democrats and Republicans, and that's what people need to remember. It's about America first. It's not about Trump. It's about us.
I heard Raskin, the congressman...
And, she's right. We've brought up that point on this show multiple times. If you set that precedent, now it's just going to turn into a game like Congress is just a nightmare of drama because they just walk around and, if you're going to do that, then I'm going to do this. That's what's going to happen with elections. You'd have states. Talk about you want to divide the country. All the Democrat states would be kicking off the conservative. All of the conservative states would be kicking off the Democrat. And then in the end, you're going to have just as many votes anyway. So, she brings up a great point, and that point has been brought up, multiple times before. But the other point that she brings up, which is really true, is they're so upset. Like Rachel Maddow's almost crying on television. She's a moron. Everybody knows she's a moron. But they're crying because they can't be tyrannical. That's literally what it is. It's like a child. I want my ice cream. No, Johnny, you can't have ice cream. You know, or your kid's like, I want to play with my toy. It's like, dude, you got to finish your Happy Meal first. Like you don't get to play with your toy before you finish your Happy Meal. That's not how the world works, but that's how liberals were raised.
Democrat today say he's got some rascally plan to go back to Congress and determine that Trump's an insurrectionist. So even if he does win in November, Donald Trump, Congress could bar him from taking office. What's going on here?
Hey, why don't we also spy on his election for 2024 and then act like it didn't happen? I mean, it's what they're always doing. They double down, they triple down, and they become desperate. I'm not sure where their PR people are, but they should take a look at the polls. What they're doing is not working. And what President Trump said today was so articulate and so on point. He was calm, he was measured, and he said it very clearly. President Biden, do your job. Stop attacking me. Fight fair and square. I don't want to win this way. I want to win fair and square. You've got to take your henchmen off of me, your witch hunts, your election interference cases. And if you can walk your way to the ballot in 2024 and vote. But he is not able to do so, and that's the truth. So the desperation, as we're seeing with what they said today going to Congress, it just, they double down, they triple down. Tomorrow we'll hear more of it. But they're not realizing that the American people see straight through it, Jesse, and they're sick of it.
All right,
And they are. I mean, you talk to anybody, everybody knows. Everybody knows what the... exactly what is happening with all, I mean, not just this trial, but all of them, I mean, it's absolutely just absurd what they're doing and what they keep on doing and what they keep trying to do. And it's blatantly obvious. And, Fannie Willis, the district attorney in Georgia, who is now on trial, not on trial, but they're reviewing whether or not she's going to be disqualified for his criminal trial in Atlanta because she misappropriated funds and she brought on a boyfriend to work on this trial and then gave him like thousands and thousands of dollars, which he used to take her on very lavish vacations. So, I mean, that case is completely falling apart. We'll see how they kind of come back from that. But the Supreme Court, this is from the Babylon Bee, hilarious. In a major blow to democracy, the Supreme Court rules voters can vote for favorite candidate. That's the point of voting, is you get to vote for who you want to vote for. You don't get to eliminate people you don't like from running because you're afraid of them or you don't like them. That's not how it works. This is America, Jack.
You are one of the preeminent Supreme Court experts. Were you surprised?
This is CNN again, grasping at straws, trying to hang on to this. Now they're going against the Supreme Court. You got Justice Sotomayor, super liberal. I mean, even coming out and saying, you can't do this. I mean, it was 9-0. It was unanimous. It wasn't even fair. Like, they didn't even have a shot. And the left-wing media is still trying to say, oh, well, no, the Supreme Court is corrupt. Let's get rid of the Supreme Court. We'll go over that in a minute, what Keith Olbermann said. But let's watch this. I mean, this is interesting.
By this two-tiered decision that came down from this court.
Well, I certainly wasn't surprised at the result. We saw at the oral argument about a month ago that all of the justices seemed very much inclined not to remove a candidate for president from the ballot or let the states do that. And so it was pretty clear then that all of the justices could not imagine a way in which, in a system like ours, you could have a candidate for president on some ballots in some states, but not in others. And I expected that result. What I didn't expect was that the court would go further and take a fairly aggressive stance, saying only Congress can do this. Congress would have to pass a law.
Again, Congress did not. I mean, the Supreme Court did not take a stance and say only Congress can do this. It is written in the 14th Amendment that they're trying to use against Donald Trump. I mean, I don't understand what you're trying to say. Well, I didn't expect them to take this stance. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Section 5 is crystal clear. It's crystal clear. Here it is, right here. Google. Section 5 of the 14th Amendment vests Congress with the authority to adopt appropriate legislation to enforce the other parts of the 14th Amendment, not the states. Same amendment. In the 14th Amendment, Section 3 is insurrection. Section 5 says who gets to stop the insurrectionists from running, and it's Congress, not the states. What are you surprised about? You surprised that you didn't fucking read it and that you don't know? I'm not surprised since you're on CNN.
Number one. And number two, that Congress, that it would be very difficult for Congress to write a law that the court would consider constitutional.
Yeah.
It put
what?
All kinds of obstructions in Congress's way to sort of warn it. In case you are going to do this, which in the world we live in a very polarized world, seems extremely unlikely. But in case you're going to, we're not going to make it easy for you to come up here and be upheld.
Yeah, I mean, that's really a fascinating element of this. The 9-0 opinion, you've said, was likely penned by the Chief Justice. And the liberals, in their concurrence, were pretty unhappy with that decision to do exactly what you just described. They accused the majority of trying to insulate Trump from future controversies and challenges to his eligibility. Do you think that these tensions will ultimately carry over into the next huge Trump decision that they face, which is over this question of immunity?
Well, it's hard to tell. It's a very different kind of question. And I should say that the liberal justices were very forceful in their views, but a similar view in a more modest way expressed was by Justice Amy Coney Barrett, who also thought the court went too far in deciding questions that it didn't have to decide. And remember that Justice Barrett was appointed by President Trump. So it wasn't just the liberal justices, although certainly the tone of the separate opinion by the liberal justices was different from Justice Barrett's brief separate opinion. Now, on immunity, it's a whole different kettle of fish, although I must confess, you know, when the court agreed that it would hear the immunity case in April, I talked to a bunch of scholars, liberal, conservative, very liberal. Nobody saw any way in which the court would buy the immunity argument.
I'm sure you talk to very nonpartisan people. If you talk to anybody at all. Maybe you read a couple of articles and you're talking about, oh, well, yeah, I talked to these people.
And today I started to wonder if that's really true.
That's interesting.
I certainly think that the most influential or at least forceful person in that debate is likely to be Justice Kavanaugh, Justice Brett Kavanaugh, because more than any other member of the court, he served with a president of the United States as his chief of staff, George W. Bush. Every day he worked with Bush, and he has very strong feelings about the importance of a strong executive and the way other branches can hobble it by threatening the president of the United States. Remember, he was his chief of staff after 9/11.
Right, yeah.
And that was a time when the president was exerting very, very broad, controversial and strong powers. And
all right, we're completely off topic now. They're talking about the immunity claim for Donald Trump, and we'll do a show on that. We'll talk about that. However, that has nothing to do with the 9-0 Supreme Court ruling that just because you're a liberal lunatic doesn't mean you get to take the person you don't like off of the ballot. The people decide that, and the loosely define, oh, he's an insurrectionist. Well, I mean, what did he do? I mean, he's not an he's okay. Why didn't we charge him with insurrection? We charged him with trying to overthrow an election. He's got 91 felony counts. None of them are insurrection. None of them are to overthrow the United States government. Not one of them. 91 felonies. But we want to have the United States Supreme Court rule that he's an insurrectionist and remove him from the ballot. Or at least have the states remove him from the ballot.
Democrats have taken lawfare to a whole different level, and they're using these liberal groups such as Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics, very well funded by the far left. And their goal was obviously to destroy the president at all costs. Now, the court made the responsible decision. We don't want to see this happen to a Republican candidate or to a Democrat candidate. So it was in clearly following the Constitution that they did it. And I think actually Amy Coney Barrett said it very well, which is it's far less about our differences than it is about the fact that they had a unanimous vote. This clearly sends a very direct message. Otherwise, you would have seen the disenfranchisement of millions of Republican voters, and that would have caused, I think, chaos in our election process. Democrats have taken lawfare to a...
It would have been freaking chaos if they would have ruled Trump off of the ballot. I could tell you that very confidently that would have not gone over well. But the Supreme Court doesn't care about that. When the Supreme Court makes a decision, they don't care if people are going to like it. They don't care if politicians are going to like it. They don't care if people are going to riot over it. They don't really give a shit. They're there for life. It doesn't matter. They don't have to run for re-election. They don't have to, fight the public. They just do what they think is right. I mean, that's essentially why they're there. I mean, and they shouldn't have that restriction, because then they're going to move not in the eyes of the actual interpretation of the Constitution or its laws. They're going to move in the interest of partisanship, which is why they're appointed and not elected. Our founders were very smart people. Let's listen to this clown.
The Supreme Court just ruled that states cannot disqualify insurrectionist Donald Trump from being on state primary ballots in the presidential race. What are the real-world consequences?
What are the real-world consequences
of what the Supreme Court just did? Right or wrong, it does lasting damage and potentially fatal damage to American democracy.
Fatal damage to American democracy by removing the person you don't like from the ballot?
Because it allows, it enables, it even encourages insurrectionists to seek federal office again and to hold federal office again, including the insurrectionist in chief who has pledged to be a dictator on day one. The Supreme Court just said, tough luck, states, tough luck, American people, tough luck, democracy. You can't keep him off the ballot. You can't keep him from holding office, even though he's an adjudicated insurrectionist.
Not true, by the way. That's literally not true. That's a complete lie.
That's going to leave a mark on our democracy.
They're not saying you can't withhold the president from the ballot if he's an insurrectionist. They're saying that Congress does it because Congress is the people. They also said that the states can withhold insurrectionists from their state election ballots because they have the authority to do that. But as it clearly says in the 14th Amendment, Section 5, it is up to Congress. Apparently, this clown can't read either. This is Jenna Griswold. She's the Secretary of State for Colorado, really pushing this ban. And this is humiliating for Colorado. This is absolutely humiliating. This is her walking out of the car. This is a Laura Loomer, somebody who works for Laura Loomer, just completely calling her out, and it's phenomenal. Just watch her face.
Secretary of State Griswold, how much did Soros pay you to kick Trump off the ballot?
She's like, nobody ever paid attention to me my whole life. Now when he says her name, she looks over like, "Oh, hey, am I your hero?"
Secretary of State Griswold.
Look at her face light up. "Oh, you're calling me?"
How much did Soros pay you to kick Trump
And then frowny face, let me turn away.
off the ballot? $10 million. Why do you take Soros donations? How much did Soros pay you?
Just humiliating. That is like a walk of shame after a drunken night where you did something incredibly stupid and hope that you never remember it. But then you think about it every once in a while, late at night when you're in your bed. You're like, I can't believe I did that.
Secretary of State Griswold, how much did Soros pay you to kick Trump off the ballot? Why do you think it's okay for 74 million Americans not to vote for their choice for the president? Did Soros pay for your trip here today?
Just ignoring. Not going to answer any questions. That's fine. Clown. It's a freaking clown show in this country. And it's absolutely disgraceful.
I am working with a number of my colleagues, including Debbie Wasserman Schultz and Eric Swalwell, to revive legislation that we had to set up a process by which we could determine that someone who committed insurrection is disqualified by Section 3 of the 14th Amendment.
Well, this morning, House Democrats wasting no time fighting back after the Supreme Court unanimously ruled against Colorado's effort to ban Donald Trump from the primary ballot. You know, the Supreme Court yesterday said, keep him on the ballot. It's up to Congress. Now, Congress, some Democrats there want to change everything.
Well, look, they can say whatever they want, but it's not going to be successful. It's not going to get through the House. It's not, frankly, it's not going to go anywhere in the Senate. So this is just them trying to keep up their lame story, trying to, frankly, interfere with this election. That's what the Democrats have been up to this entire time. But it's not going to matter. It's not going to happen. The Supreme Court was clear. The voters will decide this general election.
That's right. And there's just no way they are going to get that anything about removing Donald Trump through Congress right now. Now, we all remember Keith Olbermann, a big MSNBC clown, similar to Rachel Maddow. This is what he had to say. The Supreme Court has betrayed democracy. Its members, including Jackson, Kagan, and Sotomayor, have proved themselves inept at reading comprehension. And collectively, the court has shown itself to be corrupt and illegitimate. It must be dissolved. Dissolving the Supreme Court of the United States, Olbermann, you, sir, are a fucking moron. You're a trash pail. You've always been a trash pail. Dissolve the Supreme Court because they read Section 5, and clearly you didn't, and then you accuse them of not having reading comprehension. What do we always say? The left is doing exactly what they accuse you of doing. If they accuse you of not having reading comprehension, then they themselves do not have the ability to read and comprehend what they're saying. Because Olbermann clearly did not read Section 5 of the 14th Amendment, which is absolutely crystal clear in its statement that it's Congress, not the states. I am a huge proponent of states' rights, 100%. This goes beyond their scope. If you have, one rogue state like California, they're never going to let a Republican run ever again. You could say anybody's an insurrectionist for any reason. Oh, this guy spoke bad about the government. You don't like the government? You don't like what we're doing? You're questioning? You're using hate speech to try to overturn the government. It'll be freaking chaos. and nothing will ever get done. Thank you for tuning in. This is Ryan Samuels. Do not forget to hit that like, share, and subscribe button, and we will see you next time.
Thanks for tuning in to The Ryan Samuels Show. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.